the Seattle Seahawks. They just beat the Rams. They clinched the NFC West. I remember we made a video about the Rams and the Seahawks, and they got a lot of hate because a lot of Rams fans were talking about the Seahawks not going to win the division. I picked the Rams because I stayed loyal to my pick from the beginning of the season, but I thought the Seahawks were going to make it because they're playing really well, especially their defense. But how far do you think they can go now that their defense is coming alive? They're playing better. They're communicating well. How far do you think the Seattle Seahawks can go in the playoffs?
I could see them going all the way to the Super Bowl, honestly. I have them right up there with the Saints and the Packers as my top teams in the NFC, and that's just because their defense has turned a corner. And I know their offense has been struggling a little bit, but I trust Russell Wilson. You know, we saw what he did earlier in the year in that offense with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Chris Carson getting back healthy. So I trust that unit to put it together. The defense has really turned a corner, and that was the big concern. Earlier in the season, they were putting up numbers that were the worst in NFL history, but when you look at what they've done, you know, Jamal Adams has been exactly what you would expect Jamal Adams to be. It was the perfect move for the Seahawks, bringing him in. He was the piece to really ignite that defense, but then they've also had other guys that have been great. Rookie Jordan Brooks has really stepped up in this second half. Carlos Dunlap, that trade, injected some life into this defense. DJ Reid and Shaquille Griffin are two guys in the secondary that are playing really well for him. Over the last 3 games, they've been the best scoring defense in the NFL. They've allowed 9 points per game. Since Week 11, they've allowed just under 14 points per game, which is a point and a half better than any other team in the NFL. So they've been really good. The one thing I will say is that in that span, they've played Kyler Murray, who is a very good NFL quarterback, but then they've played Jared Goff, who we've talked about, Carson Wentz, who's since been benched, Sam Darnold, who's playing well, but still not a great NFL quarterback at this point in time, Dwayne Haskins, who's cut, and Colt McCoy, who's a backup. So it hasn't come against the best competition, but even confidence-wise, just seeing your defense put up these great numbers and getting a big win against a division opponent in the Rams coming into playoff time, I think is huge for them. The defense was the problem, and they've seemed to figure it out. So I don't see any reason why they can't come out of the NFC, depending on what happens with the Saints have question marks in their offense. What is Drew Brees going to be come playoff time? The Packers defense, you don't know what you're going to get out of them week to week. So I think they're right up there as a top 3 team in the NFC.
You were very critical of Jamal Adams. You said he's horrible in coverage. You were very critical.
He's not good in coverage.
I think he is. I think Jamal Adams is one of the best safeties in the NFL. I think he's a leader. And look, I know that he's not a Jet, and we're both Jets fans, and I can understand that you were talking about him from an emotional place. But for me,
it's not from an emotional place. He's not. You can be one of the best safeties in the NFL and not be good in coverage. He's an elite pass rusher. He's the greatest pass rusher at the safety position maybe ever.
Jamal Adams is my prez. He's my president, and he might have forgotten the Pledge of Allegiance in the beginning of the season. But I said this. I said from the beginning that their problem was communication. Jamal Adams still knew the Pledge of Allegiance. He just had to sing it in a different tone. That's all it is. He's my prez. Jamal Adams is my president. He's one of the best safeties in the league. He's one of the most flyest and swaggiest players, and he's a leader. He's a leader. And these past couple of weeks when the Jets have beaten 2 playoff teams, now you see the Jets are talented. They're just badly coached. And maybe if we kept Jamal Adams, we'd have a better record. Now, I sure would have loved Prez on the Jets right now. But this is the thing. The Seahawks are one of the worst teams in defending the pass. But the bright side about it is that they're 5th in rushing yards, which means that they can stop the run. And if you can stop the run in the playoffs in colder atmospheres where teams are probably going to run it more, you have a chance to win. With that being said, their defense is coming alive, but Russell Wilson has thrown 10 interceptions in the last 10 games. So he has not played at his MVP self. We thought he was going to be the runaway MVP. Right now, I think it's Rodgers, Mahomes, Allen, and then Wilson, and he might even be behind Kyler. They might be in the same bracket. So I think the Seahawks can make it to the Super Bowl because I think Russell Wilson can turn it on. But as of right now, I think their defense will be fine. We seen it last year where the Chiefs were one of the worst ranked defenses. Then towards the end of the year, they were like the first in rushing. And then they went on the Super Bowl run. Can a similar thing happen in Seattle? Yes, I do think so. But it all depends on matchup in the NFC.
Yeah.
If they face Tampa Bay, I don't see them being Tampa Bay. Green Bay, even Green Bay, I don't see them being Green Bay. Right now, Seattle, they're short at secondary. Trey Flowers is out for the year. He's on IR. Quentin Dunbar is out for the year. He's on IR. They're relying on DJ Reid, and although he has played well, I don't think he can match up against those elite number one wide receivers in the NFL.
Especially come playoff time.
I don't think Shaquille Griffin is that, that well. You seem to think Jamal Adams isn't great in coverage, so that would mean if you face Tampa Bay and have to guard Gronk, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans, there's going to be a lot of problems right there. So it just, in the NFC, mostly, it all depends on matchups. Who do you match up with in the playoffs? If the Seahawks can avoid the Bucs and possibly just have to go through teams like, even if they face the Rams in the first round, go through teams like the Rams or maybe a Saints or a Green Bay, I think they'll be fine. But it all depends on matchups, especially in the NFC.
Yeah, I don't think that right now they're a better team than the Packers or the Saints, but I think they have the potential, just like I would have them similarly like the Bucs. I think the Bucs can make a Super Bowl run, but like you said, it depends on matchups and who's going to show up in what way. You just never know. It's much like the AFC where, well, not really, because in the AFC, I think the Chiefs are far and away the best team, and then the Bills are right there below them. But I think the Packers, the Saints, the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers are all right there neck and neck with a chance to make it out of the AFC. I don't think there's any clear favorite in the NFC right now.
Yeah, and the Seahawks got a lot of slack because of their defense. But I've always said it was just their communication. Once they got the communication right, they became one of the better defenses in the NFL. But I think the key for them is that in the beginning of the year, I said the Seahawks, no way they can make the Super Bowl because their defense was historically bad and Russell Wilson was historically good. But now it seems to be the opposite. Like, Russell Wilson is he's good still, but he's not MVP great right now. So now the Seahawks are kind of depending on Russell Wilson to turn the corner and play like he was playing in the beginning of the year. If he can play like that, and with this defense playing as good as they're playing, then they could make it. But you can't have the defense playing good and Russell Wilson playing okay. Yeah. He has to play superstar level as well for them to make it.
And Russell Wilson, I'm sorry. He's an MVP Super Bowl level quarterback, so I don't see any reason he won't turn it around come playoff time. It's not like he's never been there. I think he'll figure it out. It would have been hard for him to match the numbers that he was putting up in the first half, and I think that this defense settling in is going to give him a chance to settle in, knowing that he doesn't have to be Superman every weekend out there like he had to be through the first 5 or so weeks when they were considered one of the best teams in the NFL, but the defense was playing so bad. So I think that this defense playing as well as they had means more almost mentally than anything else, because not only did they have that momentum going into the playoffs, but now you're Russell Wilson. You see, okay, our defense has been solid, so I don't have to be Superman every week for us to win games. I just need to be myself. Yeah. And I think he can figure that out.